In the early hours of Sunday, June 20th, 2004, police received a frantic emergency call from Jackie Crymble.
What's happened, sorry? Someone fell into your house? And where's your husband?
Upon the police's arrival, Jacqueline, commonly referred to as Jackie, recounted to the officers that she and her husband were assaulted upon returning home from a night out. She stated that a group of 4 men demanded drugs and money before restraining them both. Jackie claimed that her 35-year-old husband was then taken away in the family car. Allegedly, she managed to alert authorities by using her tongue to dial the police, but there was more to her story than what was presented at face value. Welcome to Crime's Anatomy, where truth is our scalpel and justice is our mission. And today we uncover a crumbling house of lies. Watch till the end to learn the true depths of betrayal and greed in a case that sickened even the family members of the perpetrator. And for the latest update as of 2024, subscribe now to receive updates of new cases and to show your support for true crime stories. Let's go back to the case. Later that morning, which coincidentally fell on Father's Day, the lifeless body of Paul Crymble was discovered in his car in a laneway of County Armagh, 2 miles away from their residence. He had endured severe beatings, suffocation, and was bound with cable ties on his hands and feet. The Crymbles' story began when they first crossed paths at the age of 17. After welcoming their first child, a daughter, into the world, they tied the knot in 1992. They were stark opposites in personality. Jackie exuded boldness, often being outspoken, and carried with her a turbulent past. Conversely, Paul was of a shy and reserved nature. Jackie was his first serious romantic interest, a fact that underscored their disparate personalities. Their dissimilarities sometimes led to awkward moments. Jackie's outspoken and occasionally brash demeanor, along with her propensity for profanity, contrasted sharply with Paul's reserved nature. Nevertheless, when Jackie introduced Paul to her family, they were taken aback by his genuine kindness and warmth. Paul was an unconventional match for Jackie, deviating from her usual type. Yet, Paul was perceived by Jackie's family as a commendable partner for her. Despite their contrasting personalities, when Jackie became pregnant, Paul felt a sense of obligation to stand by her. Raised in a devout Christian household, Paul held traditional beliefs and felt compelled to support Jacqueline. Thus, he proposed to her. However, on the eve of their wedding, Paul confided in his closest friend, admitting his lack of love for Jackie. Despite his friend's attempts to dissuade him from proceeding, Paul felt duty-bound to marry Jackie for the sake of their child. Even though his feelings were not fully invested, he hoped that love would grow with time. 6 years after exchanging vows, and now with a second child, a son, Paul and Jackie relocated to the rural village of Agori in County Armagh, seeking a larger home for their expanding family. Financially, they were thriving, with Paul employed as a mechanical engineer in the aerospace industry, while Jackie tended to the household and children. To outsiders, their lives appeared prosperous. However, beneath the surface, cracks in their marriage began to emerge. Jackie frequently left Paul to care for the children, while she frequented the local pub. When confronted about her behavior, she responded with hostility and aggression. Over time, Jackie gained a reputation in the village as a partygoer, earning labels like "loose woman." Her presence in bars often spelled trouble, causing discomfort among locals who anticipated her disruptive antics. Such turmoil extended to their home life, where their daughter recalled walking on eggshells around Jackie, fearing her volatile temper. Even innocuous inquiries could provoke her wrath, leaving Paul and the children apprehensive in her presence. Their daughter even mentioned Paul's fear of his wife. Initially, as the police investigated Paul's murder, they accepted his wife's account without question. However, as the inquiry progressed, suspicion shifted onto Jackie. Within the first 24 hours, investigators began to view her as a potential suspect. One of the early findings from initial house-to-house inquiries revealed Jackie's involvement in an extramarital affair, which appeared to be widely known in the area. Roger Ferguson, a 31-year-old local farmer, emerged as the man Jackie was romantically involved with, a relationship that developed after her family's move to Agori. The police investigation examined the state of the Crymble marriage and Jackie's affair to understand her potential motive for murder. Financial gain emerged as a significant factor. Allegedly, Jackie frequently discussed financial matters, even suggesting that Paul Crymble would be more valuable to her deceased than alive. Investigators focused on the phone Jackie claimed she used to dial 999 with her tongue, viewing the claim skeptically. To test it, they sent the phone to the forensic lab to check for saliva on the pushpad. The lab confirmed the presence of Jackie's saliva, supporting her story. Days after the murder, the Armagh police questioned Jackie, though she was not charged and was later released from custody. She was able to attend Paul's funeral, receiving comfort from friends and family as she left the church. Roger Ferguson was also interrogated, but his alibi, provided by his mother, asserted that he was at home in bed, and she had spoken to him around 2 a.m. Unable to establish evidence directly linking Ferguson and Jackie to the murder, the police resorted to secretly recording the couple's conversations. These recordings revealed that Jackie and Roger continued their affair after Paul's death, often seen together in Ritual and the pub where they first met a year earlier. Initially, a newcomer, Jackie quickly became known among locals, often boasting about her perceived wealth alongside her husband. Roger and Jackie became regulars in the pub's pool room, but not all of Ferguson's friends warmed up to his new girlfriend. Some saw her as trouble and advised Roger to steer clear of her. However, Roger chose to ignore their warnings. Before Paul's murder, Jackie made a promise to Roger at a car dealership in Dungannon. She intended to buy her lover a $23,000 Jeep and assured the salesman they would return with cash, presumably from the proceeds of Paul's life insurance policy. Roger's mother was also present during the transaction. Meanwhile, in Ritual, Jackie found employment at a care home. The couple began to plan their future together, but Paul Crymble grew suspicious. His wife frequently stayed out late at night, sometimes not returning until the early hours of the morning. Despite Jackie's claims of working, Paul never saw any money or pay slips. Furthermore, Jackie deceived her co-workers, fabricating stories such as her child being involved in an accident to excuse her absence from work. Paul discovered this lie when concerned co-workers contacted their home about their son's well-being after the alleged accident, only to find out that the child was safe at home. Paul suspected that Jackie concocted the story to spend time alone with her boyfriend. Paul was aware of his wife's affair, but his friends believed he turned a blind eye to it for the sake of their children. Paul always strived to provide the best life for his family, but Jackie seemed perpetually dissatisfied, no matter how much he gave. Jim McFarland, a friend of Paul's since childhood, perceived their marriage as devoid of love, based on his observations of their interactions over the years. Even Jackie's own family recognized her tendency to speak aggressively or belittle Paul. They voiced their disapproval, prompting Jackie to behave better in their presence. However, her facade often slipped, revealing her true demeanor. Days before the murder, Jim and Paul embarked on a motorbiking tour to Spain, fulfilling a long-held ambition. The motorbike offered Paul a sense of freedom, allowing him to escape the chaos of his home life and find peace. However, amid the holiday enjoyment, Jim harbored grave concerns about his friend's marriage. They discussed it extensively, and Paul confessed that the marriage was failing, and it seemed inevitable that he and Jackie would soon part ways. Nevertheless, Paul's primary motivation for staying was his children. He was determined to prevent them from experiencing a broken home and made every effort to salvage the marriage. Additionally, he feared losing access to his kids, as Jackie had repeatedly threatened that he would never see them again if he left her. Paul was unwilling to take that risk, prioritizing his children's well-being above all else. The trip to Spain marked the final holiday Paul and Jim would share together. Jim's worries extended beyond Paul's marital troubles. He feared for Paul's safety. Just a month prior, Two men had broken into their family home while Paul was asleep. One of the intruders wielded a shovel. Paul had retired early for the night, anticipating an early shift the next morning. Jackie was absent at the time, reportedly out shopping with the children, a detail that struck Jim as suspicious. Paul recounted hearing noises in the hallway and, in a daze, mistook the intruders for his family returning from the shops. Startled awake, he called out to Jackie, only to confront an assailant with a shovel standing over him. Reacting swiftly, Paul tackled the intruder, who fled. Another masked man shouted from the hallway, prompting Paul to give chase. He observed the two intruders exchange glances before fleeing the house. The following day, Jackie offered her coworkers an extraordinary explanation for the break-in, claiming that the intruders targeted her due to her supposed military service. A fabrication, as Jackie had never served in the army. Jackie's deceitful behavior escalated. She falsely accused her husband of coercing her into participating in group sex and infecting her with a sexually transmitted disease. However, her most egregious lie was reserved for her lover, Roger Ferguson. She informed him that she had been pregnant with his twins, but miscarried due to assault by her husband, Paul. The police grew suspicious that Roger Ferguson readily embraced Jackie's negative depiction of Paul, believing he was not only abusive to her, but also to their children. After Paul's return from Spain, Jackie arranged for the children to stay with their paternal grandmother in Carrickfergus and invited Paul for a drink, a departure from their usual routine. This orchestrated gesture, seemingly out of character for Jackie, left Paul hopeful for reconciliation, prompting his compliance. They headed to a local bar, where Jackie encouraged Paul to consume more alcohol than usual, leaving him heavily intoxicated by the end of the night. Surveillance cameras captured their departure from the bar onto the street, marking the last sighting of Paul alive. Despite leaving the bar at 1:23 a.m., Jackie's call to 999 wasn't placed until 2:35 a.m., leaving a significant time gap unaccounted for. The journey from the bar to their house typically took 5 minutes. Therefore, the delay in contacting emergency services raised suspicions. Additionally, several other aspects of the case unsettled the police. The telephone's positioning in the house also raised suspicion. If, as Jackie claimed, the phone had been on the overturned table, it seemed unlikely that it would end up upright with the cradle still intact. Something about the scene didn't sit right with investigators. It felt off. When the police arrived at the house around 3 a.m., they found Jackie Crymble on her knees on the left-hand side of the hall. Her hands, but not her feet, were bound with cable ties, a puzzling detail. An officer used a penknife to free her hands from the ties. Jackie recounted to the police that the intruders had assaulted her husband, pushing him to the ground and subjecting him to a severe beating. They then asphyxiated him by placing a plastic bag over his head and securing it with tape. Jackie claimed she had vomited, yet no evidence of vomit was found at the scene. The doctor who examined her afterward noted normal pulse and blood pressure readings, which was unusual following such a traumatic event. Forensic analysis revealed a footprint from a size 10 Caterpillar boot in the hallway, consistent with Roger Ferguson's footwear. The DNA from a rolled cigarette discovered in the house matched Roger Ferguson's genetic profile. However, the prosecution acknowledged that these pieces of evidence could have been from a prior occasion. The cable ties used to restrain Paul Crymble's wrists and ankles were found to contain Roger Ferguson's DNA. Additionally, Jackie's fingerprints were found on the plastic bag used to suffocate Paul, as well as on the subsequent bag from which it had been removed. Both the roll of plastic bags and the roll of tape used to secure the bag around Paul's neck were returned to the drawer where they were initially stored, indicating that they had been replaced after use. A breakthrough occurred when police examined Roger Ferguson's phone records. They discovered a call placed to a 17-year-old named Colin Robinson at 2:21 a.m. on the morning of the murder. Robinson later confessed to being at the Crymble home, initially claiming he was only supposed to provide transportation. However, after extensive police interviews, he admitted accompanying Roger Ferguson to Paul Crymble's residence. Caught between loyalty to his friend and the truth, Colin Robinson eventually confessed. He admitted taking part in that night's events and assisted Roger Ferguson in disposing of Paul's body. Robinson's testimony helped the police piece together the events of that night. Minutes after Paul and Jackie had left the bar, they made the short journey home. At the house, Roger Ferguson forced his way in, followed by Colin Robinson. There was a struggle, and Paul was knocked down. Robinson followed behind and witnessed the attack and saw Jackie Crymble kick her husband as he lay on the floor. He saw Ferguson place cable ties around Paul's wrists. Unnerved, Robinson fled the house. Ferguson called him back some minutes later and got into the Crymble family car. Once inside, he realized Paul Crymble's body was on the back seat. He tried to leave, but Ferguson insisted he remained. The car was then taken to a laneway where it was abandoned. The following day, Paul Crymble's body was found 2 miles from his home. After a 4-month trial, Roger Ferguson and Jacqueline Crymble were convicted of murder on 17th of May, 2007. Colin Robinson was found guilty of assisting offenders. Dawn Ferguson, Roger's mother, was convicted of perverting the course of justice by providing a false alibi for her son. The judge told Roger Ferguson, "I think you were carried away in the circumstances of this love affair." He said to Jacqueline Crymble, "When you failed to take your husband's reputation, you took his life. You are guilty of the ultimate act of treachery." Justice McLaughlin said that when Crymble and Ferguson finally got her husband alone and helpless in his Ballybray Road home in Ahori, they acted like an executioner. Like an executioner, you and Roger Ferguson put a black bag over his head, sealed it around his neck, watched as he struggled to breathe, and waited for him to die. "The cruelty implicit in what you did," said the judge, "defies belief." Mr. Justice McLaughlin said the murder plan emanated from your greed and hatred of your husband. Your betrayal of him was of biblical proportions. Turning to Ferguson, the judge said any suggestion that he killed because he was ensnared by Crymble was false. The reality is, you killed because you wished to gain from Paul Crymble's death. You took part willingly, and whilst you were in full possession of your faculties, said the judge. The judge sentenced Roger Ferguson to life imprisonment and a fixed tariff, also known as eligibility for parole of 18 years. He sentenced Jacqueline Crymble to life imprisonment and fixed her tariff at 20 years. Colin Robinson was jailed for 3 years, and Ferguson's 57-year-old mother, Dawn, was freed on a 12-month conditional discharge. After the sentencing, the grieving mother of murdered Paul Crymble and the heartbroken mother of his killer wife shared a feeling of relief that justice had finally been done. Both mothers said they could now try to piece together their lives. Jackie's mother, Phyllis Cree, said that while some justice has been done, she would prefer if her daughter was never set free. "Anyone who does something like my daughter did deserves to be sent behind bars for a very long time. In cases like this, life should mean life," she said. Jackie never did get Paul's £300,000, or approximately $370,000 life insurance payout in the end. A judge ordered it to be put in trust for their 2 children. In 2013, Paul and Jackie's then 21-year-old daughter, Danielle, went public about her feelings of disgust for her mother. She revealed how her mother has continued to ruin her life from prison. Speaking to the Sunday Mirror, she said Jackie used the fact that she had kept parental rights over Danielle and younger brother Adam to control them, and attempt to bully them into accepting she was innocent. "She'd try to bribe me into visiting her by saying she'd sign a consent form for school trips if I came to see her," Danielle told the newspaper. "Then when I went, she'd protest her innocence. She'd refuse to sign the form when I said I didn't believe her. It meant I was the only kid in the class to be left behind." Speaking about the aftermath of her father's death, Danielle said that she never saw her mother show grief or remorse, and that she was still seeing Roger. The final insult came when Jackie burnt all her husband's belongings and all photographs of him weeks after his death. Danielle only managed to rescue one picture of her and her father, which she treasures now. She wasn't a mother, she was a monster. Someone who not only killed my daddy, but ripped away my childhood. Jacqueline Crymble will finish serving her 20-year sentence in 2027. She continues to deny that she had any role in murdering her husband, and will likely never admit the truth. Now, viewers, what do you think? Should Jackie be given a chance to rebuild her life, or is she beyond redemption? Let me know in the comments. And check out one of our other cases on screen, or the playlist of all our cases. Your support keeps our investigations alive. Hit like and consider subscribing. It takes a second and is free. Thank you.